The smell of gasoline and warm vinyl on a Sunday afternoon. That was the perfume of possibility. It wasn't just a drive. It was a ritual, a sacrament of family, whispered in the rumble of a V8 engine and the rhythmic click, click, click of the turn signal nobody ever remembered to cancel. I can still see Grandpa Joe leaning against the flank of that immense two-tone Chevrolet Bel Air station wagon. The land yacht, he called it, patting its gleaming chrome trim, like the flank of a trusted horse. Sunday morning sunlight filtered through the big elm tree in the driveway, dappled the hood. He'd polish a smudge with his handkerchief, already dressed in his going out shirt. Crisp cotton, short sleeves rolled just so, even though the only destination was out there, somewhere. Inside, Grandma Elsie moved with a quiet, humming efficiency. The scent of roast chicken lingered from lunch, mingling with the tangy promise of lemonade sweating in a glass pitcher wrapped in a dish towel. She'd be packing the wicker picnic basket, wax paper wrapped sandwiches, ham and cheese, always, a thermos of coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in, another of icy Kool-Aid for us kids, and her famous oatmeal raisin cookies, still faintly warm. Just in case, she'd murmur, though just in case was the unspoken anthem of those afternoons. My sister Susie and I would tumble into the cavernous back seat, bouncing on springs covered in scratchy plaid upholstery. No seat belts to confine us, just acres of vinyl and the wide, unblinking eye of the rear windshield. We'd stake our claims to window seats, pressing noses against the cool glass, already scanning the familiar streets of Maple Creek for the first hint of the unknown. Grandpa would settle behind the wheel, a king in his chariot. The key turned with a satisfying chunk, and the engine would roar to life, settling into a deep, reassuring purr. He'd adjust his fedora, slightly tipped back, catch Grandma's eye in the rearview mirror with a wink, and say the magic words, "All right, explorers, where shall the wind take us today?" It wasn't a question expecting an answer. It was an incantation. Maple Creek would fall away, houses shrinking, streets widening. Soon, we were on the two-lane blacktop, a ribbon of asphalt unfurling towards the hazy horizon. Cornfields stretched like green oceans on either side, broken only by clusters of trees guarding lonely farmhouses. Telegraph poles marched alongside us, their wires dipping and rising in a silent symphony. Grandpa drove with one hand resting lightly on the bottom curve of the massive steering wheel, the other often draped casually out the open window, catching the rushing air. He wasn't in a hurry. Speed wasn't the point. The point was the looking. "See that, kids?" he'd rumble, pointing a work-roughened finger towards a hawk circling high on a thermal. "Master of the sky, patient." Or he'd gesture to an ancient oak standing sentinel in the middle of a field. "Bet that old fella's seen a century of Sundays roll by." He taught us to see the world not as scenery flying past, but as a story unfolding slowly, page by page. And then, the landmarks. They weren't signposted on any official map, but they were etched into the landscape of our Sundays. Places born not from planning committees, but from eccentricity, necessity, and the sheer human desire to say, "I was here." There was the giant chicken, of course. A towering, slightly lopsided fiberglass hen perched atop Clucky's chicken coop. A ramshackle roadside stand, 20 miles east of town. Its paint was perpetually peeling, one beady eye cracked, but it was magnificent. We'd beg Grandpa to stop, just to stand beneath its shadow. He'd chuckle, That old bird's seen better days, hasn't she? But he'd pull over. We'd get a cone of soft-serve vanilla, the kind that tasted faintly of the machine, and stare up in awe at this absurd, wonderful monument. To fried chicken? Imagination? We didn't care. It was ours. Further along Route 7, nestled in a valley, sat Maud's Marvels. Not a store, really. More like Maud Henderson's front porch gone rogue. Jars of jewel-colored preserves lined rickety shelves. Wild blackberry, peach ginger, rhubarb crimson. Wind chimes made from forks and spoons tinkled in the breeze. Hand-knitted socks hung like strange fruit. Maud herself, tiny as a sparrow with eyes sharp as pins, would emerge, wiping her hands on a flour sack apron. "Well, hello there, travelers," she'd chirp. No pressure to buy, just genuine delight at visitors. Grandma would always pick up a jar of something, exchanging news of the town, while Grandpa admired Maud's husband Clyde's collection of interesting rocks displayed by the gate. It felt less like commerce, more like visiting a slightly magical aunt. But the true heart of the journey, the undisputed temple of the Sunday drive, was the Crossroads Diner. It sat precisely where its name suggested, at the lonely junction of County Road 12 and Old State Pike. A long, low-slung building of chrome and glass brick, topped with a flickering neon sign promising Eats and PEI. Inside, it was a symphony of clattering plates, hissing coffee urns, the low murmur of conversation, and the rhythmic scrape of a short-order cook's spatula on the griddle. The air hung thick with the glorious perfume of frying onions, bacon grease, and freshly brewed coffee. We'd slide into a red vinyl booth, the material cool and slightly sticky. Mabel, the waitress who seemed as permanent as the chrome trim, would amble over, order pad ready, pencil tucked behind her ear. Her uniform was crisp white, her smile weary but warm. The usual Joe? Elsie? She knew. Burger deluxe for Grandpa, open-faced turkey sandwich for Grandma, grilled cheese for Susie, chocolate shake for me. It wasn't just food. It was communion. We'd watch the parade of humanity. Truckers hunched over steaming mugs, farmers in clean overalls fresh from church, young couples holding hands shyly in a corner booth, weary families like ours refueling. The jukebox in the corner might cough to life with a Patsy Cline ballad. Time didn't just slow down here. It pooled, warm and deep. Grandpa would lean back, sipping his coffee, surveying the room. "See that fellow over there?" He'd nod towards a grizzled man alone at the counter. "Bet he's got stories could fill books. Everyone does, if you take the time to listen." He taught us, in that chrome and vinyl temple, the value of shared space, of simple kindness. Mabel refilling a coffee cup without being asked. A nod exchanged between strangers. The unspoken understanding that here, at this crossroads, everyone belonged, if only for the length of a meal. The drive home was quieter, bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. Stomachs full, bodies pleasantly tired from fresh air and uncomplicated wonder. Susie might fall asleep against my shoulder. I'd watch the world slide by in reverse, the landmarks shrinking in the distance, the giant chicken becoming a speck, Maud's porch vanishing around a bend. The fields glowed amber. Fireflies began to wink in the gathering dusk like scattered stars. Grandpa would hum softly, a tune without a name. Grandma might reach over and pat his arm. No grand pronouncements, just the comfortable silence of shared experience, of miles traveled together, not just on the road, but through the landscape of belonging. We'd pull back into the driveway, under a sky bruised purple and orange. The land yacht would tick softly as its engine cooled. We'd help carry the empty basket, the thermoses, the lingering scent of diner fries clinging to our clothes. The world outside Maple Creek felt vast, discovered, yet comfortably distant. Those Sunday drives weren't about reaching a destination. There wasn't one. They were about the going. About the deliberate act of stepping away from the known, the routine, the small worries that could pile up like unread newspapers. They were about moving slowly enough to see the hawk, the oak, the absurd giant chicken. About encountering characters like Maud and Mabel, who painted the world in brighter, stranger colors. About sharing a vinyl booth and understanding deep in your bones that you were part of something. A family, yes, but also a wider tapestry of folks, just traveling through. Grandpa Joe never owned a smartphone. He never needed GPS. His map was curiosity. His compass was a sense of wonder he never outgrew. He navigated by the stories the land whispered and the landmarks built by dreamers and eccentrics. He understood that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones with no fixed address, taken at the speed of a Sunday afternoon. The two-lane blacktops widened into highways. The land yacht gave way to sleeker, faster cars that hugged the curves, but never seemed to see them. The giant chicken, well, Clucky's stood empty for years before a storm finally toppled her. Maud passed on, her porch treasures scattered. The Crossroads Diner got a modern makeover, the chrome painted over, the vinyl booths replaced, the jukebox silenced. Mabel retired. The world learned to rush. And the Sunday drive? It faded like the echo of a screen door slam in a quiet neighborhood. Replaced by schedules, screens, destinations measured in minutes saved, not moments savored. We gained efficiency, connectivity. But I wonder, did we lose something vital? Something of the soul? Grandpa Joe's lesson wasn't about cars or chickens. It was about presence. It was about choosing deliberately to slow down, to look out the window instead of down at a screen, to be surprised by the world's odd beauty, to value the detour, the quirky landmark, the unexpected conversation, to understand that the journey itself, shared with those you love, moving through a world patiently observed, is the destination. The perfume of gasoline and warm vinyl is a memory now. But the feeling of possibility, of shared discovery, of belonging to a landscape and its stories, that's a landmark within us. One we can revisit anytime we choose to slow down, look up, and truly see. Turn off the highway sometime. Take the road less hurried. You might just find a piece of your own Sunday afternoon waiting.